Hi, everyone. Welcome to Breakout A4, Future 50 Foods Advancing Biodiversity on the Menu. A big thank you to Unilever Food Solutions for their support of this session and our summit as a whole. We have two fantastic chef presenters today showcasing demonstrations, and you can find the recipes linked below the video player to follow along. If you would like to maximize any screen throughout the demo, you can double-click on any particular video feed to make it larger for your own viewing. And don't forget to add your questions and comments in the chat throughout the session. It is my great pleasure to bring up Chef Dana Cohen, Corporate Marketing Chef for Unilever Food Solutions, and Chef Pierre Thiam, who is a chef, author, social activist, cultural ambassador, and co-founder of Teranga and Yolélé Foods. So chefs, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Thank you so much, Shara. So thank you again for joining us. I'm Chef Dana Cohen with Unilever Food Solutions. And one of the things that I just wanted to bring about, because for me, being part of Nor Future 50 was really eye-opening, because the big thing that I was unaware of is that currently there are 12 plants and 5 animals, which actually make up 75% of what the entire world eats. So obviously things need to change if we want to be sustainable for our future and be able to preserve a lot of the crops that are no longer going to be with us if we don't start doing the right thing. So today we're going to be talking specifically about one of the grains in the Nor Future 50, which is Fonio, which I will let Chef Pierre tell us a little bit about Fonio. But just to give you an idea of some of those ingredients, and you saw some in the video, we're looking towards doing 3 dietary shifts. So the first one is a greater variety of vegetables. And the reason for this is not only to introduce new crops, but also to increase our vitamin and mineral intake as well as antioxidants. And as we know by looking at a lot of these vegetables, they're very colorful and vibrant too. So that's helping chefs put new exciting flavors on their plates. The second is the plant-based proteins. So this will help reduce our meat consumption, which, as we know, is having a very big negative impact on the environment today. And the last is those more nutrient-rich sources of carbohydrates. So that's the one we're going to be focusing on today. And I believe Chef Pierre and myself are both going to weave in a few extra ingredients there that we have on the Nor Future 50. But some of those other benefits of these different carbohydrates besides wheat and rice are that we have complete proteins, we have fiber introduced, and if you ask us, they're a lot more flavorful, and there's a lot more you can actually do with them. So I will hand it over now to Chef Pierre. If you can tell us a little bit about what Fonio is, and I'm excited to see what you're going to cook.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Thank you, Chef Dana, for this beautiful introduction. And indeed, I concur with you. We have to diversify our diet. And I love this, that an organization like Unilever is taking that challenge with the Future 50 foods. Today, that one particular food I want to focus on is called Fonio. And Fonio is the oldest cultivated grain in Africa, actually. It's been around for 5,000 years. It's a gluten-free grain. It grows in poor soil. Let me just take this camera and show you a focus of my mise en place to tell you what I'm cooking today. There is Fonio, that's how it's spelled, F-O-N-I-O, and this is the grain actually that you can find from my company, Yolélé. I've been working with smallholder farmers to bring this grain back and save biodiversity, at the same time bring economic opportunities through this organization, through this business actually. So let me show you what we're doing. We're making a Fonio croquettes, and the Fonio croquette that we are making today is inspired by a stuffing that we use in Senegalese traditional cuisine that has lots of parsley in it. And as you can see, the parsley has garlic, Scotch bonnet pepper, or habanero if you don't have any access to that. I'm using mushrooms, shiitake here. That's also part of the Future 50. Mushrooms is part of it. I'm using cassava, yuca, and yuca, I use it because that's also considered like the African potato. It's a tuber that you can see here. It's really rustic looking. and I'll peel it and just boil it down quickly and then just use it as a binder for the croquettes. I'll have some ginger, I have scallions, I mentioned parsley, and I'll make a sauce out of tamarind. And that's how fonio looks like before it's cooked. It looks like sand. It's a tiny little grain. It cooks in really quickly, 5 minutes. I'm gonna bring it to a boil right here while I prepare. I take you through the cooking process. So let me place the camera. Sorry for the shakiness. I'm doing the cooking and the camera at the same time. So I'm, so I'm bringing this to a boil. If you have any
Yeah,
questions, then as I go, you can
I think
definitely interrupt me.
there's a
And
great
while I
question
bring
in
this to,
there from Dean, who says he's excited to see Fonio.
uh-huh.
Can't wait to use it on my vegan menu. Is it, I think we both have an answer to this one. Is it insensitive to not pay tribute to Fonio as a grain from West Africa? Should I pair Fonio with traditional West African foods?
The question is, should fonio be always paired with West African food? If that's the question, no, it does not have to. Absolutely, it is a grain from West Africa, and we're actually working on making sure that name fonio is preserved for that region because we want to make sure the West African farmers are benefiting from it. But the great thing about fonio is very versatile, and you'll see it. It has a delicate flavor as you taste it, and very neutral as well. So you can adjust to so many different recipes. Like this one, that one we're going to make today, the croquettes, is really an imagined recipe. It's not a traditional recipe. The stuffing is inspired by a traditional recipe, but it's an imagined. And in my last cookbook, the Fonio cookbook, there's so many recipes all along. I mean, you see Fonio sushis in it, which is definitely not West African traditional. But it just works. Fonio is a grain that can substitute any other grain. So it's very important to know that, because it really changes the dynamic on how you can just adjust it in different recipes. You can use Scandinavian recipes, you can use Japanese recipes, or West African recipes for that.
Perfect.
So my water is boiling here, and I'm going to quickly run to the stove and pour the fonio inside the boiling water.
And the thing that I love too, Chef, about the Fonio is that it's really foolproof in terms of cooking. So if we compare it to something like quinoa, quinoa is very easy to either overcook or undercook. And then it doesn't have such a desirable texture. But tell us a little bit about the Fonio and how it's kind of foolproof in the cooking process.
Absolutely, and you're gonna see it. See, I just poured the fonio inside here, and it's gonna just take your clock, 3.5 minutes. You know, I'm always saying 5 minutes. It takes less than that. In 3.5 minutes, I put the fonio in. I lower the temperature to very low and let it simmer. Keep it covered, and in 3.5 minutes, it'll be ready. And I'll be ready to either eat the fonio and add it to the rest of my ingredients. So while the fonio is cooking, actually, let's start with the other ingredients. I'll show you. Now I'm going to move the camera. The fonio is, you see it, there's nothing more to see here. I'll move the camera to the stove here and show you the yuca. We'll take the yuca and bring it to a boil. Quickly peel it. And as you can see here, where the lens, can you see it, Dana?
Pull it back. Yep, now I
on
can
your
see
screen?
it. Now I can see it.
There we go. So that's the that's the peel yuca that I'm going to bring to a boil back here on my stove, just boiling it in plain water. The yuca is right here, boiling in plain water. And the fonio, did I mention 3.5 minutes? It's ready, right? So this is how easy it is. So all you have to do at this stage is to fluff it with a fork. And I'm going to allow it to cool off before continuing the rest of the recipe. So I'll move it to a bowl here and transfer it to a bowl and allow it to cool while I saute my mushroom. Reminding you that the yuca is cooking. my fonio right here in a bowl.
Chef, we have a good question here.
I know you don't see.
Someone is
Go
asking,
ahead.
does Fonio work in sweet recipes?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a very good question. Again, I'm taking you back to my last book. There's a whole section on recipes, on dessert recipes for the fonio. And among them, some traditional. One of them, one of my favorite, is the fonio coconut and rice pudding. I mean, coconut pudding over roasted mango. So that's an easy one to make. You just at this stage, instead of cooking the fonio the way I just did it with for 1 cup of fonio, 1.5 cup of water, I'll make it more like a porridge, and I add coconut milk instead of the water. So I add instead of 1 to 1, 1 to 1.5, I'll do 1 to 3. So you want it to be more like porridge like and absorb the coconut milk. And then you sweeten it with the sweetener of your choice. You know, it could be honey, it could be agave, it could be sugar, brown sugar, whatever you like. You know, and flavor it with some vanilla. And then the mango is going to be roasted, you know, diced and roasted in honey, and just use as a topping for that dessert. And you can add shredded coconut to add more texture to it. That's a really easy and quite fun dessert to make with fonio. And you know, there's also fonio flour that you can use for baking as well. So here I've chopped my mushroom. I'm going to just bring it here to the stove. Let me move the camera to the stove. And here add some oil, a little bit of oil. And once it's hot, just simply gonna toss the mushroom in it, the chopped mushroom, and let it cook. I'm just waiting for my oil to come to a nice heat, and then I'll let it cook in it. So that's quite simple. Now here at this stage, the mushroom is going to cook, and I'll combine it with lots of parsley, scallions, scotch bonnet. It's optional. You don't have to use scotch bonnet if you don't want. If I use it, I take the seeds out so it's not too spicy, and just add it and with salt and pepper. And then all that is going to be combined with the mushroom and chopped even finer, or actually traditionally we use a mortar and pestle. So I'll show you how we do that. And then that's going to be the stuffing. Separately, that fonio that's cooked is going to be mashed up together with the cooked yuca to make the dough of the croquettes. So that's the dough of the croquette that will be stuffed with that parsley mixture and then fried the second time. So that's about it. So here, let's just add my chopped mushroom to the oil. You can hear the sizzling. That means the oil is hot, perfectly hot. I'm gonna use a wooden spoon to stir it.
Also, Chef.
So you want your mushroom to be
While
cooked?
Chef is stirring
Yes.
those mushrooms, for all of our viewers, next to the chat button there's a polls button. If you go to the poll, we have a question there about how familiar are you with fonio? So if you want to answer that poll question, it'll be interesting for us to see. So far, Chef, we don't have anybody who voted that they use it regularly on their menu. So we're going to have to change that.
Well, we have to change that. That's the challenge that Unilever took, and that's such a great challenge. It's very important. I mean, we're going to be 10 billion people on this planet, and if we keep going on feeding ourselves the way with this food system is happening, we're in trouble. We're in big trouble because it's not sustainable. It's not good for our health. It's not good for the planet, because we just need to make sure the soil and the environment is taken into consideration. We use too much water to grow the food for that we're going to eat. We use too much chemicals. We put entrants in the soil. That's not great, you know, and that's why you need to know ingredients like fonio. They're very important. In addition, they're just great for you. They're delicious, you know, and that's easy to cook. As you see, 5 minutes, you make your fonio. So here, my mushroom is almost ready. I'm just going to prepare the rest of the stuffing. So I add some scallions to it, and I'm going to roughly chop it. And lots of parsley. You can all chop it together.
Someone is also asking, besides Amazon, where can you purchase? It's also available at Whole Foods.
Oh, yeah, it's a very good question. I would start before Amazon and Whole Food. I would start at yolele.com. You know, Yolele, YOLELE.com. And you can get not only our fonio, but you also get some fonio pilafs, you know, different fonio pilafs with flavors using ingredients, some of them that are already part of the Future
There you go,
50 food
chef.
ingredients, you know, like our fonio greens.
Right here, we have this
Come again?
one has greens, so it has moringa and spinach, which are actually both part of the Future 50 as well.
There we go. Thank you, Chef Dana. Absolutely, this was the goal. You know, that's like this. We're working with the sustainable development goals in mind and making sure we promote those crops that are grown in our region and that are underutilized. So here, my mushroom is ready. I'm going to transfer it to a bowl and let it cool a little bit. And I'll combine it with the rest of the ingredients here on the board and keep chopping. I was mentioning earlier today that back home we would be using a mortar and pestle, so I'm going to use a mortar and pestle, a smaller one, to show you how this is done. This one is I like this mortar and pestle. Actually, that's a Japanese one because it has those indentation inside that allow the blending to happen. So here, that's my stuffing. You can season it with some salt and some pepper. I'm going to grate some ginger. Just a little bit of ginger. Just add some kick to it. And I mentioned the Scotch bonnet pepper if you want to add it. And that's, again, optional. This one, I took the seeds out. And I'm just going to add a little bit of it. That's just plenty. All you need is a little kick. And then I'm getting back to my stuffing. A little more salt. Et voila. So the stuffing is ready. And I'm going to now mix my cooked fonio with cooked yuca. This is here the yuca after it's cooked. You want it to cook until it's completely soft. And you know, that's like soft, it's breaking easily with through my fingers, through the thumbs. So I'll just add this yuca cooked. And you know, sometimes when you see when you cook the yuca, sometimes you'll see that there is this little harder stem in the middle. You can remove it. Use your hands, make sure they're clean. But your hands are like one of the best tools in the kitchen. So my fonio is still a little hot, but as you see, I'm combining the yuca and the fonio to create a dough. I'm going to use a different mortar and pestle here, just to show you the way we do it back home. Of course, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the African mortar and pestle. These are the big wooden ones carved out of the trunk of a mango tree. So those ones are like quite impressive, and they play a role in pretty much every African kitchen. You'll see every single one would have this big wooden mortar and pestle that kind of serves as our food processor. So here I have this dough here, and pretty much ready to continue with filling up my croquettes. So my hands, can you see my hands here? All you need to do now, you have okay. So it's holding now. What you have is the croquettes simply has here fonio and yuca, and I'm making like an indentation on each of them and put some of the stuffing, the parsley raw stuffing in the middle, as you can see, and that's it. You shape it back up, and with your finger you close it, and you make a few of them that you can refrigerate until you're ready to fry them. So I'm going to put my fryer, start frying the croquettes. So while the oil is heating up, I'll have the more croquettes shaped up. Et voila, put my oil on the stove. Okay, let's roll a few more croquettes.
Awesome.
Here.
And I think, Chef, while you are finishing up rolling out those croquettes, if you don't mind, I will start with my dish as well. And you can let us.
Absolutely. I
All
totally
right. So
think
you
it's a
let us
great
know
idea.
when your oil's ready
Yeah,
to fry.
go for it.
So back to that question that was asked
Yep.
before. Do you
Okay.
have to pair with other ingredients from the same region? The answer is definitely no. I'm taking a Mediterranean twist on fonio today. And this is actually a recipe that I've made before. I was familiar with fonio, but hadn't really cooked with it all that much. And so I played around with it and actually was able to substitute it for breadcrumbs in the recipe that I already was making, which is an eggplant patty, or you could also make these into eggplant meatballs. And the great thing about these is that once you cook them with all the other ingredients, you kind of forget that there's no meat in there. You could take this on an Italian sort of spin and actually cook the meatballs in a tomato sauce and serve them with some Parmesan cheese and fresh basil. But like I said, today I'm going to take a Mediterranean twist, do it with a little za'atar seasoning. And of course, eggplant goes so well with Mediterranean cuisine. So the first thing that I actually did was saute some eggplant. So I have that here already. So I just diced that up, sauteed it in a little bit of olive oil, vegetable broth, and some fresh garlic. So I'm using these smaller graffiti eggplants. I always like to use the smaller eggplants because they don't have those large seeds in there, and I find it's a little less bitter, a little sweeter, and more tender. So I actually grew these in my garden, not these here, but I grew these in my garden last summer, and I'm pretty excited I'm going to grow them again. They were pretty simple, and there's a lot you can do with them, whether you grill them, stuff them, they're the perfect size for all those kind of things. So the important thing for me to learn about fonio was that even just making this one small swap can really make a difference in your dish. And that's the thing, right? So someone asked about menuing this ingredient. What I would recommend is making those small swaps so that it's not such a foreign thing or foreign concept to your diners. So anytime you take something familiar and put a little twist on it, people are more likely to try it than if you introduce something totally new. So I've sauteed my eggplant here and I actually left the skin on. I like the texture that it gives, especially with these baby eggplants. The skin is nice and soft. So I'm going to add that to a mixing bowl. And I'm just making a smaller portion here. So just like Chef Pierre was saying, you could do this with a mortar and pestle. You can do this with your hands. For the sake of not getting all messy, I'm actually going to use an immersion blender. And I'm going to give it, or you could do this in a food processor as well, and just give it a quick buzz. I actually cooked the fonio in vegetable broth, and I'll talk about that in just a second. So I don't want to puree it all the way so that it's got no recognizable pieces of eggplant in there. I just want to give it a little pulse so that it comes together when I form the cakes or the meatballs. So I've got my pureed eggplant here. Hopefully you can see that. And then I cooked the fonio in our Knorr liquid concentrated base vegetable broth. So this is a totally vegan product. Adds really nice mirepoix flavor, especially if you're not making those stocks from scratch. And because it's a liquid, it dissolves really quickly. So like we were saying, this cooks in 3 minutes. I don't have to worry about anything dissolving. I've already fluffed mine up. So I'm gonna add that right to eggplant. So this is where I made that simple swap. I took breadcrumbs out. And if you think about all the recipes, right, that use eggplant or that use breadcrumbs as a binder, you can start to see how convenient it would be to use this instead, because again, you're boosting that nutritional value, you're adding protein, you're adding fiber.
Hey, Dana.
Hi.
Hi there. And hi, Chef Pierre. I'm lurking here just to read some of the questions because both of you are busy in the kitchen. So
Yeah.
we had a question, and thank you, Lori, asking if the eggplant was cooked or raw.
So it was cooked. So it was just diced and sauteed in a little bit of olive oil and fresh garlic. So took about 10 minutes. I want to get it so that it's nice and golden brown and soft throughout. So to this mixture now, I'm just going to add some beaten egg, a little fresh parsley. I guess parsley is the herb of the day, but you could certainly use fresh oregano, or if, like I said, you're taking this in another direction, you can use mint, you can use basil. I like mine a little bit spicy, so I'm using some crushed red pepper. And my favorite spice of all time, smoked paprika. So I love the smokiness that it adds, especially with vegetables. Because we don't have that meat, it gives us sort of that smoky flavor that we're looking for. And the last ingredient that I'm using is our Nor Intense Flavors Roast Umami. So this is going to give me the flavor of caramelized onions and roasted garlic. It is a concentrate, so a little bit goes a long way. And it is made with all real ingredients, no artificial anything, and no preservatives. So another product that I love, comes in all different flavor variants as well. So you can see here, I've got everything in my bowl. I'll season with a little freshly ground pepper and some salt. And then it is ready to form. So just like Chef Pierre was doing with his croquettes over there, I've formed mine into some nice little patties. And with the fonio or with any grain or with eggplant, obviously you've got some natural moisture going on there. So it may vary in terms of how wet it is. You may need to add a little more fonio if it needs to be a little drier. You can always add a little liquid if you need to moisten it. And that's what our mixture is going to look like. So all I'm going to do is take that and form it into these nice little patties. And then the great thing about this is that you can either pan fry them or you can bake them. So if you wanted to keep it a little healthier, you could bake them, finish them off in a sauce, or like I did today, because I love that nice golden brown crust, you can pan fry them. And with a little magic of television, here is what you will end up with. So hopefully you can see those. I know I have some light behind me. But I have these nice now fried cakes. And the last thing I'm going to do is make, maybe not the last thing, make a really simple sauce for you. So I'm using my little NutriBullet blender here. So I'm starting with some labna. Labna, if you're not familiar, is a Mediterranean type cheese, kind of in between sour cream and yogurt. It's nice and tart. It's very creamy, very thick. It's Chef Anav's favorite ingredient. And then I'm using our Hellmann's vegan mayo. So you might be asking, well, why am I using vegan mayo if I just put a dairy product in here? Great question. The thing is, when you start with vegan mayo, you can customize it however you like. So if I wasn't adding the labna, you can make this just with vegan mayo and some spices and some lemon juice, and you'd still have a really nice creamy sauce for the eggplant cakes. So I could use regular mayo. However, the Hellmann's vegan mayo really taste quite similar to the regular mayo, and that's why I'm substituting it out today. I've got some good quality feta cheese here. So I have equal parts mayo to labna, and then I'm going to add that nice salty, briny feta cheese. A little bit of fresh lemon juice. It's already pretty tangy, so a little bit here is more than enough. And then I'm using my za'atar seasoning. So I'm going to be pretty generous with that. I love this because, again, we have that tartness from the sumac. We've got toasted sesame in there. Some of them have oregano, marjoram. Everyone has their own sort of variation or version, right? Just like anything. And I'm just going to whip this up to make a nice creamy sauce.
Dana, while you're doing it, a question for Chef Pierre.
Chef
Pierre, there is a question if you could mix the dough of the croquettes in a food processor.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, you could do it. And I was just making a small amount, so it made sense to make it with the hand so you can see what's happening. A food processor works perfectly well. As a matter of fact, that's a good segue to show you what I'm doing on my stove right now. Chef Dana, is that okay? I just want to show the frying of the croquettes. And can you see it from the camera? I'm frying the croquettes in a, yes, and that's just, I'm using peanut oil here, but you can use any oil of your liking, a good frying oil, of course. And so I'm frying it to be, have a nice and golden color. I mean, it's all gonna come out like this. And these are the croquettes that will be served with a dipping sauce. And the dipping sauce, I'm using tamarind here. I'll mix the tamarind with, it really takes 1 minute for the dipping sauce. I'm just going to take quickly, if you allow, Chef Dana, to just allow me to quickly do the dipping sauce, or you want to continue and then I'll do the dipping sauce afterwards?
Whichever.
You tell me.
I can actually finish up here.
Okay, so I'll bring the.
Yeah,
go ahead.
So I've got my sauce here. The last thing I have, I want to add a little bit of color, a little freshness, a little brightness, and some pop. So I've got some toasted pine nuts that I've already toasted off. I have some fresh pomegranate seeds, so I'm adding those. So this is going to, of course, give us some nice color, a little crunch, and finish with that fresh parsley. Toss that with just a little bit of olive oil, just enough to get it nice and glossy. And then I am ready to plate. So I've got my plate here. Start with some of the sauce here at the bottom. And I'll add my eggplant cakes here. Perfect. Come with a little more of this on top. And then just finish with the fresh pomegranate and toasted pine nuts. And that is it. Chef Pierre, take it away.
All right, thank you. It looks beautiful. It looks really delicious as well. So right here, my croquettes are finishing. Right here, you see they're getting a nice golden brown color, and I turn it around to evenly cook it. And like I was saying, it comes with a dipping sauce. It's a snack, you know, type of a street food. It was inspired by street food from Senegal, actually. It's a type of street food that you can see. The croquettes are like crunchy, and they have in the middle, it's moist because it has that mushroom rough mixture in the middle. Rough is like the parsley, the name for parsley mixture in Wolof in Senegal, in my country. And now my croquettes are ready. I'm just putting them, removing them on paper towel here to soak the extra oil and let it cool a little bit. And while it's cooling, I make the dipping sauce. Like I said, the dipping sauce takes no time. It's actually quite quick. Um, and the croquettes are a little too hot to eat right now. So let's jump on the sauce. So I have a bowl, a mixing bowl, right here in front of the camera. So to it, tamarind. So you can have tamarind, the fruit, directly if you happen to live in Senegal or in Mexico, and just soak it in water, hot water, to dilute it and get the paste out. To this paste, I'm going to add a little bit of honey to sweeten it, because tamarind has some sweetness to it, and it also has some sourness, like it's very sour. So you want to make sure it's not too strong. It's definitely a great ingredient, underutilized, that you can add to your cuisine. It adds a nice fruity acidity to your sauce. I'm going to add fish sauce. Actually, this one you can see from here, I'm not advertising for anybody, but that's the Southeast Asian fish sauce that bring back these flavors from Senegal. We use a lot of fermentation in our cuisine. So if you don't have the fermented conch that we use in our cuisine in Senegal, you can go to Chinatown and buy some fish sauce, and you will get the same exact results. So I'm going to get a few drops of that fish sauce. And to it, I'm just going to add a little bit of water to dilute it a little bit and taste it. Nice kick. You want to add some cayenne pepper, it's fine. That brings an extra kick to it, but it's optional, obviously. So this sauce is in the middle of my plate.
Perfect.
I received this beautiful plate.
This looks gorgeous, Chef Pierre. And as you are plating up, I am just going to give a couple final announcements as we're closing our session. Thank you so much to Chef Anna and Chef Pierre for your fantastic demonstrations. Hopefully you all had a moment to click on the link to look at the Future 50 foods report so that you can bookmark to read it in greater detail later. Beautiful, beautiful preparation. Thank you so much, Chef Pierre. I'm in a couple notes on where we are all headed next, because we are heading into a networking time sponsored by the Mushroom Council. Actually, several mushrooms are listed in the Future 50 food report as well. Coming up during this time, we have in the sessions tab, we'll have 2 culinary demonstrations happening. Plus, we have some Meet the Author booths and conversations with Roxana and Kirsten Dixon. If you click the networking tab on your left, you will be able to have a 4-minute video chat with another attendee. And the topic for today is, if you could go anywhere for dinner tonight, where would you go? We also have fantastic culinary demos, insightful presentations, and innovation happening in the Innovation Hub. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. We hope you'll enjoy these networking activities, and our stage will be live next at 2 p.m. Any final thoughts, Pierre and Dana, before I'm going to close us out with a short video?
Yeah, I would just say, from my perspective.
Dana, you have any thoughts?
Yep. I was just going to say, we've shown you here how you can make a small change and it can make a big impact. So looking at those more nutritious ingredients, they're super flavorful, very colorful, and have a lower impact on the planet. So consider adding those to your menu. And I know we dropped the entire Future 50 report in the chat, so you can check it out there.
Thank you, Dana. Pierre, final thoughts?
And absolutely. That's what I was going to say. Just adding these ingredients, making these quick changes on your daily menu, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, can make a big difference, not only on your health, on the planet, diversifying our diet, but also you can help communities, like in those countries which happens to be among the poorest communities, those small farmers. Supporting them is very important, and that's part of the vision that Future 50 Foods and Unilever altogether is having, and we should all support it. Absolutely.
Perfect words to end on. Thank you so much to both of you. Greatly appreciate it. We are going to close out this session with a short video to explore some additional exciting ways we can use the Future 50 ingredients to replace dishes that we all know and love. So hang on for just a moment as we share this final video. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you to Unilever Food Solutions. Enjoy this networking time. We'll see you back on the stage in 20 minutes.